Mark 9:30-41. They left that place and passed through Galilee. Jesus did not want anyone to know where they were because he was teaching his disciples. He said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise." But they did not understand what he meant and were afraid to ask him about it. They came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they kept quiet on the way. They had argued about who was the greatest. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all." He took a little child whom he placed among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, and whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." "Teacher," said John, "we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we told him to stop, because he was not one of us." "Do not stop him," Jesus said, "for no one who does a miracle in my name can the next moment say anything bad about me. For whoever is not against us is for us. Truly I tell you, anyone who gives you a cup of water in my name, because you belong to the Messiah, will certainly not lose their reward." So it's interesting how, God can speak things to us, and even though understanding and interpretation belong to God, but He'll keep understanding from His disciples. He'll tell them something, but He won't give them understanding, and it's because God does things very, very slowly. Like when Israel went to the promised land, Jesus didn't give all of the enemies into their hands at the same time. God said, little by little, He will defeat these enemies for Israel, because if He killed them all at once, then the wild animals would take over. That's what it said, I think, in Deuteronomy 33, something like that. And it's kind of the same way with us in sin, and He'll help us defeat one sin at a time, and He'll give us these understanding a little bit at a time, because if we got it all at once, our minds would just explode. We do not have the mental capacity, the spiritual capacity to understand truly what Jesus is saying and who He was. So He just kind of does it little by little. The more you seek Him, the more you know Him, the more you grow. Little by little. That's just how He does it. It's often like it's the opposite of how the world gives. With the world, it's rush. I want it all right now. But with Jesus, He's offering a lot more, but it's just slowly given. That includes understanding. It just gives a little bit of understanding, and I think it's interesting that they're afraid to ask Him about it. I kind of like that they were afraid. I feel like a lot of times Christians are just way too flippant. It's just like they don't even know who they're talking to. And I'm the same way. If I knew who I was praying to, I'd be a lot more careful what I was saying. But at the same time, we don't have to be afraid. Jesus says, "Don't be afraid." So if you have questions, ask Him and be ready for the answers. Listen for the answers. What were you arguing about on the road? They didn't say anything because they were arguing about who was greatest. Man, that is weird. That's just how the enemy works. I think the enemy is cringy. Very, very cringy. Because deep down, what we want is we want people to like us. We want to be great. We want to be glorified. We want because we're our own idols. We're our own idols, and we like to. We just want to be great. But with Jesus, it's the opposite. He didn't consider equality with God something to be grasped for His own benefit. Jesus didn't say anything or do anything on His own. He gave all the credit to the Father. And He didn't seek His own glory. Jesus never sought His own glory. He only sought the Father's glory. And He did that by obeying him and serving those around him, which is basically what Jesus tells his disciples to do. Hey, if you want to be great, be last and serve all. So this is kind of dangerous because I think a lot of Christians lack are like good leaders. I know like my experience in the military, pretty much every strong, like very like outspoken Christian guy I worked with, almost all of them were terrible. They were just like were really bad leaders because they like my most recent one, like he wouldn't be leading, he'd be like getting into the weeds. Like he'd be like getting next to me and be like, hey, how's it going? Like, how you doing? Okay, like monitoring my mental status. It's like, bro, I don't need you to monitor my mental status. I need you to do this, that, and the other thing. So we actually have like direction as a team. And he wouldn't really be doing that. It was so frustrating because I just felt like all the Christians were just overthinkers and just head in the clouds, distracted, and had like a misconception about humility. You know, it's like humility isn't like I don't know, like thinking bad about yourself or talking down about yourself. Like, no, we're God's children. Like, we're great. We're pretty awesome. Okay, like God made all of us. Humility is accepting that. Humility really is accepting that fact and putting aside your own opinions and accepting God's opinion of yourself. But yeah, anyone who wants to be first must be last and servant to all. So I feel like part of that means like if you're in a leadership position, lead. And like Jesus was a servant leader. You know, that doesn't mean I don't know, like imagine, I don't know, like it's tough because Jesus also washed, he literally took on the role of a servant and washed his disciples' feet. What am I trying to say? Basically, you have to know who your disciples are. Like in the military, I think if the commander stooped down and started washing people's feet, it would not go well because it's not a Christian environment. Like these are not Christians, I guess. Not all of them. But even if they were, I don't know, it'd just be like, I need you to lead. I need leaders to lead. And I guess that's in part like how they are serving is by leading. Like, I don't know. That was a big jumble of nothing. I apologize. But it's just a pattern I've seen in Christian leaders that I don't like. They'll just, they won't really lead. They'll just try to be a servant. Like their own definition of what a servant is. And it's like, no, man, like, do your role. But sorry about that. Anyways, whoever's not against us is for us. That's interesting because no one who does a miracle in my name can the next moment say anything bad about me. For whoever is not against us is for us. Truly I tell you, anyone who gives a cup of water in my name because of you belongs to the Messiah will certainly not lose their reward. This is interesting because he says, no one who does a miracle in my name can in the next moment say anything bad about me. But one of the scariest passages is that one where he says, I don't know if who says it, but there will be people who drove out demons. Jesus says there are people who drove out demons in Jesus' name who will not get into heaven. There will be people who will do miracles. They will not get into heaven. But there are people who are giving cups of water in his name. I guess like he didn't say anything about people giving cups of water in his name, losing their reward. So, man, that passage really, really screws me up. The one where, people who drive out demons don't know Jesus and won't get into heaven. But here he says, truly, I tell you, anyone who gives a cup of water in my name. Like, that's such a, menial task and nothing. Like, this person is not up on the stage driving out demons, delivering people. Like, he is not the center of attention. He's just a nobody giving cups of water in his name. That person will get into heaven. I think that's interesting. Just don't shoot. People, I feel like, always try to aim really high, but sometimes just aim lower. What's in front of you? You don't gotta go to the other side of the planet and be some missionary in the jungle. Like, what's in front of you? Give a cup of water to your neighbor. Hang out with your lonely neighbor whose spouse just died. Like, what's in front of you? Just that's the stuff that God puts in front of you, right in front of you. That's the stuff He wants you to do. He wants you to take care of. He's calling you to the obvious things, not the more often the small, plain obvious things and the big, grand miracles. So just do what God puts in front of you and take care of that.